we can put together formalisms and models to understand biology and to understand the processes and the patterns that shape the form of the different species and at a very macroevolutionary perspective. So that's pretty much my background. I've been working in the past about 15 years on developing what we call anatomical network analysis, which is the use of graph theory to characterize and analyze morphology, something that has been picking up quite a bit, and it's been now used in several labs around the world, basically. And hopefully at some point, I think Daniela told me that you'll be interested in hearing about our networks, and I'll come back and talk about it. But when Daniela asked me if I was interested in joining you guys and talk about something, I suggested a different thing. I've been also working on chess as the game of chess. I published a book in 2006 called Chess Metaphors, Artificial Intelligence and the Human Mind. So since then, I've been on and off, when I have time, thinking about chess and how we can use it as a laboratory to understand how the human mind works. And lately, very lately, like in the past year or so, I was actually, ever since the pandemic, I started to be interested in the history of chess and how it evolved from its beginning in the 5th or 4th century, give or take, from India till today, and how it spread around the world. And that made me get into other different also interesting aspects of games, board games. And so what I was going to try to talk about today is how, I'm not sure what I'm talking about. This is something I've been working on maybe the past 6 months, and since Daniela told me this is going to be very informal, so okay, so be it. See if we can, I can make some sense, and you guys can brainstorm with me a little bit. And so let me share my PowerPoint, and that maybe will make things a little bit more clear for you and for me. Let's see. So how do you do this? And of course, anytime you guys want to ask me something, don't hesitate in doing so. Okay. Let's see. So this is the, now I lost you guys. How do I do this so that I don't lose you? There it is. You stay there.
Yes, we are here. We can see you actually, and we are.
So you can see me, and you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see this.
Is this good? Okay, so I call this Playing for Knowledge and Beauty for Free. So for those who know Dire Straits, you know what I'm talking about. So games and game boards have been around in different cultures and societies for thousands of years, for at least that we know, between 5 and 7,000 years. Okay, you got these very elaborate games right here on the screen from Egypt and Mesopotamia. These are about almost 5,000 years old, but for sure there's been other less elaborate things in the main cultures and civilizations that I I saw a message. Was that for me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe
Something's
you
happening?
can. No, you can change to presentation mode because we see the PowerPoint
Oh, but I am on
interface.
presentation mode, so I don't understand. Why is this
So
not working?
you're sharing the other screen, let's say. Yeah,
Ah, okay. So I'll stop sharing this one and I'll give the other
yeah.
one. There you
Okay.
go. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this. This window seems to be this one. Hey, there you go. Better?
See.
Yes,
All
yes. Now
right.
it's great. Yeah.
Okay, well, all right. So these are just examples of some board games, all board games, very elaborated already. And all the main cultures and civilizations starting at least between 5 and 7,000 years ago have some examples of this kind of artifacts and things that help people do things. So let's see what kind of stuff we're talking about. Games have been the subject of inquiry, and people have been interested in games from antiquity. So starting with Greek philosophers, Plato and Aristotle were very interested in games. Kant was also interested in games, and we're going to start from this sentence from Friedrich Schiller, who said, I'm going to say what he wrote, but I had also the more inclusive way, put it in brackets. And it's man only plays when he is, in the fullest sense of the word, a human being. And he is only fully a human being when he plays. All right, so we start from that point of view. Also, Friedrich Schiller put in correspondence the sense of aesthetic experience, the aesthetic emotion, and the experience of seeing something that is beautiful as related to the experience of playing a game. In a way, it's putting freedom into practice, the freedom that we could have to do something. Is fully realized when we're playing games. Ortega y Gasset, the Spanish philosopher, said the game then is the art or technique that man possesses to virtually suspend his slavery within reality, to evade, to escape, to bring himself from this world in which he lives to another unreal world. All right, so we see that the games and playing have been the subject of many thoughts and inquiries. And of course, scientists here, you got Ramon y Cajal playing chess with the chair of medicine in Complutense University, Dr. Oloris. So yeah, playing games is not only just a subject that brings about important interest in philosophical stuff, is also a very interesting way to spend your time. So let's see some elements, what happens when we're playing games. In this daguerreotype from the 19th century, you can see a scene of two players, an observer, and they're playing in a house. They're sitting on chairs. There is a table, and there is a board. And one element in common with all games is that when you're playing a game, you're showing indifference with the rest of the world. What's happening in the world, it doesn't matter. You're playing the game. You are in a different reality, and you're just totally committed. So in the end, playing a game generates a bounded reality, a new artificial way to be in the world. The board, the pieces, the mind of each player, and the spectator, a world within a world. Now, let's go back in time. And you have a temple. You get some chairs. You got an altar. You got the offerings that you do on some sacrifice. And when these people are invested on, also shows indifference towards the surrounding reality. What is important is the offering that they're doing to their gods. It's another bounded reality. The altar, the offerings, and the mind of each believer and the spectators. Again, is a world within a world. Now let's go back in time again. And here you have some early humans, Neanderthals in this case, doing some, who knows, offerings in a cave. So we went from the house to the temple to the cave. They're sitting on the ground. They don't have chairs. They have a bonfire, and they probably do some offerings to try to understand something about the world, or maybe to try to change the world, maybe to cure this guy right here. And the whole thing creates also indifference towards the surrounding reality. The only thing that happens that matters is what's happening in that point in time and space. So again, it's a bounded reality. The altar is the fire, the offerings, the mind of each believer. Everyone is like, something's going to happen. And the spectators, again, a world within a world. So how is this related to games and playing? I like to think about it as a spiral of time transformations in which we go from different aspects of culture. So we start with the hand, and the hand on the wall is understanding, is trying to understand something about reality. Tells us something about the biology of the humans that did this, of the cave. 20, maybe, well, in this case, it's about 10,000 years ago, but there are marks that go back 20 and 40,000 years old. They tell us something about being, about maybe transcendence, trying to leave your footprint, and also about representation of something that has to do with the world. The bonfire is also understanding about the other, being in society, being in a band of other humans, and share some space, and try to understand each other, trying to elicit a theory of mind. I know that you know that you know that I know, right? The table where the game is played is understanding. And in this case, a very ancient old game from Egypt, the Senate, bears a direct relationship with mysteries and the unknown. Senate is known as in all Greek and all Egyptian as passing. Is the way to the afterlife. Just by playing, you're flirting with your journey to the afterlife. So much so that Senet appears in the Theban Book of Death and other copies of the Book of Death, in which you got some sort of instructions to how to get from being alive and to being dead, and finally get to an idea of the paradise, the field of real. And Senet is part of it. The game piece 5,000 years ago is lifted with the same hand gesture as we would pick a chess piece today. I thought that was interesting. So games bring about rituals, bring about knowledge, magic and mystery, something that we don't know, and also some sense of human narrative. When you're playing a game, you are in this world within a world, in this bounded reality. You are part of a narrative, your own narrative maybe, or a narrative that is part of a reality that you don't know about. So I wanted to just describe very fast some people that have been thinking about this as I've been researching on it and trying to make sense of what is it that I'm trying to put together here. So I found, among others, this very important people that mostly are anthropologists: Stuart Cullen, Johan Huizinga, Roger CLEA, Bernard Suits, and Brian Student-Smith. I'm going to go very briefly through some of the stuff that they put together. So Huizinga, very importantly, in Homo Ludens, a masterpiece of anthropology, put together that, or at least systematically put together the notion that culture and civilization is posterior to the behavior of playing in humans, and that playing and games are ways to create and promote culture and civilization. I'm not going to go into that, but I encourage you to read this book. It has plenty of ideas and examples. Huizinga say something very, very deep. Formally speaking, there is no distinction between marking out a space for a sacred purpose and marking it out for purposes of sheer play. The turf, the tennis court, the chessboard, and pavement hopscotch cannot formally be distinguished from the temple or the magic circle. The magic circle in which, maybe in this cave that we show, that we're trying to make some divinations or trying to influence the world. Stuart Cullen, in Games of the Orient, another masterpiece, put together a fundamental relation between games and rituals, myth and knowledge. He said, games, I hold, must be regarded not as conscious inventions, but as survivals from primitive conditions under which they originated in magical rites, and chiefly as a means of divination. They furnish, however, the most perfect existent evidence of the underlying foundation of mythic concepts upon which so much of the fabric of our culture is built. So the way he saw this relationship of how games were related to divination and knowledge is by understanding games as a way of classifying the things and the objects of the world. The idea is that when primitive humans were confronted with something they didn't know, and they did not have a way to say, well, it's towards the sun or back to the sun or perpendicular to the sun. They were trying to make some sort of divination ritual to understand to which cardinal point each thing belonged. So the spring would belong to east, and but a tree, a particular tree, would belong to what? So they will have to try to do these things. So for Stuart Colling, the magical rituals that these people would do to understand, to try to figure out to which cardinal point each thing belong, give rise to games. Roger Calois put together a very interesting classification of types of games. Games that are based on simulacra, like masquerades, vertigo, like sliding, chance, like throwing dice, competitions, like in chess. And better suits talk about the illusory attitude, this attitude in which you get into a game and you are out of the world. It's like a religious experience, and this attitude makes you voluntarily enter into a world in which you have to overcome unnecessary obstacles. You wouldn't be playing this game, you wouldn't have to overcome these obstacles, but you enter this world willingly. And finally, Brian Sutton Smith talk about 7 rhetorical views of games. 1, seeing games as progress, as in child development. So a game helps children to develop their cognitive skills. Destiny, games as well, it's all written, so whatever the outcome of the game has been also already written, and everything is predestined. Power, so game as a conflict in which people can exert power over and control other people. Identity, providing the sense of belonging to a group. Imaginary, associated with creativity and art and innovation. Games as individualism, the idea of I am free to do whatever I want. For example, play. Okay, and finally, frivolity, coming from moral, Protestant moral. Games as a loss of time, as versus as opposed to useful work, right? Something that is still part of our society. So, putting together all this here, this will be the sacred circle in which things are divided up in the cardinal points. Whoops, I don't want to do that. That's what I want to do. Okay, so this magical circle or sacred altar would be the ancestor of all the boards that appear throughout the years. Ways to make divinations started with the use of astrolabe, knuckle bones, and arrows with different numbers, or usually numbers in the feathers. The throwing of sticks would become, sorry, I'm trying to use the laser point, and then it goes to the next one. I'm sorry. There you go. So this will become dice and become this objects to use to try to ascertain what has been written somehow. And so from these beginnings, you you can go different ways. You can go into the way of religion and into the way of magics, and you can go into the way of games. So all together represent ways to understand, to try to understand the world. So somehow, at some point, you can imagine people trying to or be in awe with representations and simple geometrical patterns that we've seen in caves and all ancient art. And we can see some relationship between these old marks and the beginning of different games, like lines that will represent roads or borders or rivers, that circles that will represent center, the sky, time, a spiral, some trouble to get to some target, some end, the cycle of time, squares that will represent the earth, home, the city, or triangles that will represent constellations and mountains and caves, and some long shot evolutionary outcomes of these representations, early representations into games that some of them, like chess and backgammon, still played today. So when we play, we're not only deploying a whole suite of cognitive actions that makes us part of an inherited past as one of the most universal animal behaviors, but also we are ready to recreate the world, the universe, reality itself in each move, in each variation, and in each game. Somehow, and this is a new notion that you guys can help me with, we're showing a made-up agency. So it's a way to generate new agencies. We play because we receive a reward, both mental and physical, in the form of a specific activation of pleasure brain centers associated with decision-making processes, the reduction of uncertainty, or the interest for finding out new situations associated to knowledge. We play because we're free to play. We extend our agency, usually immersed in our personal reality, to explore make-up worlds, worlds within worlds. So some of the reward systems in the playing brain, there's a direct relationship between the activation of the anterior insula and the limbic system when we have some sort of aesthetic emotion, and we enter in this illusory state in which we can enter in a state of flow. Time is gone. There's a temporality because the interoception, it's overstimulated, and everything that is salient of our reality is concentrated in our in the game that we're playing. This is very, very similar to religious experience. So we play finally to understand the world. And this understanding is an aesthetic experience in the purest sense of our biology as humans, of our social interactions. We match the pleasure areas of our brain to our memories and to the imagination of possible realities. And with this beautiful, nice game, I'm gonna stop here. I hope I wasn't too long. So thank you very much for having me, and please ask me anything.
Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
You can't see this plate. I'm sorry. Anyway. Oh, I am not sharing anymore. Okay, that's good.
no. So I don't know if somebody wants to ask something.
Yeah, I definitely have like an initial thought that I would like to follow up on. The thing you were saying at the end about it being an agency, um, I think like one of the things that stuck out in the whole conversation for me and trying to like understand games further is what you said in the beginning, that it makes this bounded world or bounded reality. And by the way, sorry if there's like background noise. I'm in a
No,
Dunkin' Donuts.
no, it's not you. I think it's me, but
Okay, okay.
I tried to put this to the maximum, and somehow it doesn't change. I don't
Okay.
know what I'm doing.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
it could be me too because I'm in a Dunkin' Donuts. I'm in a cafe and it's
okay. All right.
um,
Well, if I concentrate because it's very hot here, I have also a fan, and I'm trying to
yeah,
but I can't turn it off, so otherwise I will
yeah,
melt.
way too hot.
So
Um,
yeah. So if I
yeah.
do this, it's not you, it's me.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes, I guess just the thing that stuck out the most to me is just this notion of like a bounded world or a bounded reality that a game like makes a bounded reality. And I think like any further understanding, at least for me at least, really depends on like getting this notion down a little more and what it means, especially in like a temporal aspect too, because you kind of make that bounded reality and then it disappears eventually. So I think that's just one thing that stood out to me. I don't know if you have any other um, stuff to say about that or whatever. But for me, that's the thing that kind of stuck out the most.
Okay. Well, thank you for the comment. Yeah. I don't know if I can make much more sense. I mean, bounded reality. Uh, the game itself, the act of playing a game is an act of subtracting yourself from the bigger reality of the world and start doing something that has its own rules, totally different from the world. Um, from your own volition, you want to do this. You want to suffer your game, right? You have to suffer. You want to suffer the narrative that the game involves, and you accept that. You accept the rules. You accept the that there are other players too that can do harm to you or can help you or can do whatever it is that the game is about, right? So in that sense, you are bounding your reality into another very specific portion, right, um, of space and time, and with rules that everyone agrees upon and everyone wants to follow. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And it is
All right.
kind of like definitely an ongoing conversation, I think. And I think it is like that accepting, like willing that volition. I think is really like kind of the most important part of
Yeah,
it, or one of
absolutely.
the most important parts.
Oh, hello. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you
Yeah.
very lowly, but can't do anything about it. Okay, so
Oh, really? You cannot hear me very well?
that's
Um,
better. Yes, that's better. Thank you.
okay. Okay. On the same topic, I mean, first, thank you for the topic for the presentation to talk about play. Different types of games is always very exciting. Um, so I on the same topic of uh, agency and in the words that you said, like voluntary play, free to play, like our own volition. Um,
Hmm.
I would like to ask a little bit further about this similitude or similarities that you talked about with rituals and myths and all the divination kind of games that are played, because that has I think in that in those kind of games, many times people are not voluntarily playing, and they don't know that they are playing. They are constricted into reality, in a reality. So it is like, you have the little horse in the chess game that believes that that is its life. You know, it is not that it is playing and then it goes, you know, with his friends to have some coffee and, you know, do what life. No, it is a continuous jail, you know. So where do you draw the line there? Because in religion, like, you don't have a rest. It is not, it is not a game, you know. It is, the rituals are not game, it's reality, and it's constraining. So yeah, I would like to talk about that a little bit.
Okay, thanks. I don't know if I follow exactly what you're trying to say. I understand that in some situations in life, people are forced to play games without knowing or without wanting to, and that is obviously terrible. Now, the horse in chess, which is called the knight in English.
Sorry, I'm very sorry.
No problem, no problem, because in Spanish it's called caballo, so, you know.
Sí, es cierto.
The knight obviously doesn't know anything about anything because it's a piece of wood.
Well, yeah,
So,
well, I was metaphorically.
yeah, so the players are obviously humans usually. There have been some monkeys trying to play, but not very successfully. And everyone that plays chess plays it out of their own volition. So yeah, I can understand there are some areas in life in which you're playing a game, and, like, you know, you are in society, you're playing a game also with the rules of society, right? And you're forced. Sometimes you don't want. You say, hey, that's it, stop the world, I want to get out of here. And sometimes you're in situations that are terrible. You know, you can be enslaved, or you can be in many situations in which you had to play a very tragic game. So obviously, I'm trying not to get into that, because yes, you could say everything is play, right? But there is a relationship between rituals and games, and it's a relationship that comes from from the very onset, the beginning of understanding the world and nature, and from that beginning, things went in different ways. Went into the ways of magic, trying to understand the world by magic. It went into the way of religion, trying to understand the world by religion, and it went into the way of games, trying to understand the world with games, and finally getting some frivolous games like we have today, because there are. Nobody thinks of playing chess as some kind of divinatory game, but most likely almost 2,000 years ago, that's how it started. So yeah, I see your point, but also I think maybe we can't just I'm trying to look at games that we enter out of our own volition, right?
Yeah, it's just that that is a very important distinction always.
Sure.
That is always a very important distinction, because even in games of power, yeah, you can have games, but also many times in power games, you will see like victims and like perpetrators.
Absolutely.
There are different kinds of types of games that you will see more autonomy and more consent from all of the players, that, oh yes, this is a game, we know it's a play and we are playing. So yeah, those, I think that, yeah, maybe in the types of game you can have also some interesting characteristics there of the players, of the agency of the players.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a good point. Thank you. And sort of related to this question that is written here, that says, do winners and losers have to exist for there to be a game? Totally not. No, there can be games in which there are not winners or losers. Cooperative games in which you just have fun. Like we saw, right? Masquerades, for example, dancing, and any kind of activity that is playful and yet does not need a winner or loser. And also, you also have to distinguish between what does it mean to win for the player, because you might just have to win a game but don't care about it. You care more about the process of what is it that you're doing with your bounded reality, with your game, right? Oh, I played a beautiful game, or and I won, or I played a terrible game but I won, or I played a terrible game and I lost. So what is it important for you, that you won or that you play a terrible game, or a great game, right? So the process is very important, and obviously it's totally related to the mind of the person playing, right? I see there is another question. Does
Yeah.
uncertainty
Right.
have to exist for there to be a game? No, not necessarily. Tic-tac-toe.
But yeah. I think when I say uncertainty, I just mean like you don't know what's gonna come next, and I feel like that might be like a fun, like a crucial part for a game. Like it wouldn't really be a game if you knew what the outcome would be.
Yeah, yes or no, because for a lot of people, the repetition of something that is familiar is the better part of the game. You know, to do the same thing again and again, and to see and to experience that same kind of behavior that elicits some pleasure on you when you're playing. And this is kind of like watching the same movie 20 times. You love it so much that you just want to see it again and again, and you know what's going to happen, and you know it's going to die, but you don't care because you love it. So you just keep on going with that. So I don't know, uncertainty is part of it. Uncertainty can be pleasurable, and also can be, you don't want uncertainty, you want to be in control and get rid of as much as uncertainty as you can while you're playing. Does that make sense, Matthew?
Yeah, totally. I think that was a good point. That like the repetitive thing is a great point. Yeah.
Thanks. So I got something else. It says, if games are a reflection of reality from different cultures and views of the world, what do you think a modern or future game would be reflected from our world today? Jesus, that's a great question. I don't know. Very dystopian, I think. I think from things are so terrible at this point that that games in the future might reflect very, very dystopian ways in which we're related to each other. So yeah, I don't want to get into this, but it's a very good question. Yeah. So Thomas,
So
do you want to?
you want to ask something, right?
Yeah. Hello, Diego.
Hi.
Great talk.
Thank you.
I want to raise three kind of points, questions. The first is that I've been always fascinated by games. I'm a Go player myself, not a very advanced level, but far from fully beginner, which is a lot, at
I
least
know
for
it's
me,
one of the most
because
difficult games
it's
there
very
are.
interesting, very beautiful game, but
Mhm.
but I don't consider myself a good player, just beyond the pure basics. Um, so I've been reflecting a lot about the notion of what comes out from a game in this, because you have very simple rules, and there is later on, once you start understanding, the game is not about the moves, it's not about applying the rules of the game, it's about a construction which I call emergent, which I think it is emergent from the rules, that is the domain where we think about the game. So we don't think about the game in terms of moving pieces. We think on the game in terms of strategic concepts. In chess, for example, you get like configurations that have some abstract features that are more convenient for, like, this is in danger, this is or this is creating a tension between this and that. So these are not things that come in the game. So first thing, I want you to talk a little bit about this emergent, let's say, qualia that we give to the game out of very simple rules. And that human form of thinking, I think it's stimulating and selects game evolutionarily speaking, because it makes us more smart. We can create realities and so on. So there is an evolutionary angle there with the emergence. That's the first point. The second point is that I saw that your book is from 2009, which is before this idea of introducing Monte Carlo algorithms, before the explosion of how deep learning can beat up games. So I wonder if you are considering an update of your book, or whether the content remains untouched, even though there have been like AI revolutions on the way. And the third point is that we are the systemic modeling group that Daniela is part of, and I'm also part of, and we were invited. It belongs to the Center Leo Apostel at the Free University of Brussels. We are scattered around the world. Some of us work in CLEA, some others don't work in CLEA but collaborate. So it's a kind of open place. But we have a researcher there that is kind of, I think he's going to start a postdoc very soon, but he's always around. And I will share the link of his website, because he's specifically working in something very similar than what you show, but on video games. But he's a scholar studying time in video games and the aesthetics of games and play.
Oh, interesting.
So
What's
think
his name?
quite Federico Alvarez.
Okay.
So I think he's quite relevant. And I'm sorry that he's not here, because I think he gets these invitations. Probably he skipped it up. And I think that you guys have like a very potentially interesting discussions. So that will bring you closer to CLEA, not just to the systemic modeling group, but to the whole CLEA. So these are my 3 points.
Okay,
I can repeat if you need. So
no,
thanks.
I think I got it. But
Okay.
sometimes, yeah, my memory is not as good as it used to be. But if I forget something, just let me know. So starting with emergence, absolutely. I mean, games like, especially Go, in which the rules are so easy. You know, it's just, I have a stone, I put it on an intersection, and that's it. That's my only rule, basically. Then there are some rules about places where you cannot put sometimes a stone, but that's about it, right? And the complexity that emerges from those rules is unimaginable. It's so much so that until the advent of, and that goes into the second question, of AlphaZero, no program by brute force could even be close to what a human being could do to master the very deep strategic problems that such a board, such a bounded reality of 19 by 19 lines generates when you start filling it up with the players, with the stones, right? So these games, you definitely generate. So on the one hand, you're bound in reality, so you're making just by the sheer action of playing on a board and playing a game, you are making complexity, the complexity of the world, where you're reducing it. But then once you start playing, you play in this, as you say, this plane that is above it, and the plane of emergence of complex patterns. And the whole perception of what is happening has to do with that. And that is totally, absolutely fascinating thing about how the human mind works. So that'll be just a little comment on your question. The second question about my book, yes, absolutely, totally out of shape by now, because I will have to add all the developments of deep learning and AlphaZero and Lila, and all the new ways in which deep learning is revolutionizing knowledge, and not only knowledge, but also the acquisition of new knowledge and the discovery of new ways of thinking, or at least the new ways of looking at things. And in the case of chess, for example, of new strategic concepts and new ways to approach the game. So absolutely, there is a lot of room to make a new version of the book, and it might happen. I am not saying yes or no. So, but because I am a little bit more interested right now in all the stuff that I've been talking about right now regarding games and playing, and that goes to the third comment, which will be Federico. Yes, one of the things that I learned once I started to work on this is that in video games there's starting to be a rich community of scholars and researchers that are interested in the relationship between aesthetics and beauty and the flow of getting into a video game. And I think these are concepts that can be recycled and can be used in a broader sense, not just video games. And I know there is this researcher. His name is Nguyen, I think. He has a book on agency and video games. I don't remember the title of the book exactly, but yeah, it's a wonderful inquiry into this relationship, and how you are head on an aesthetic experience when you are playing a game. And there is independently a lot of work on how the human mind responds to all these stimuli, and how different stimuli that comes from playing games, from aesthetic experience, religious experience, are touching the same kind of activation centers in the human brain. So, well, I hope I sort of responded to all the questions. They're very interesting questions. Thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you so much for your talk, Diego. It was very interesting. I think that we are on time now, so my question, I don't know if it's so interesting too, but I was thinking, because I am not so related to games in general. I started to play some games very lately. It's very funny, but I am not so related. So, but you showed how a little bit about some signs, some symbols, some aspect, some properties about games that they are very ancestral. So I was thinking if there is any similar analogy to this kind of evolutionary, this phylogenetic this phylogenetic tree of how some games, or maybe all games, started to to evolve, and or if do you think that it's possible to do something like that or very similar to that? Because because it's interesting. I think that could be very interesting to understand what is ancestral, what is and also what is it's conserved in the change of different games or the same games during the history, and also how that relates to like to the cultures, because it's a cultural heritage, I think. So I don't know if it's something like something like that, or if it's possible to do something like that.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. There have been some work on using cladistics, actually, in phylogenetic tools to analyze the historical relationships between games. I think on chess, I know of one that has been very successful in trying to pinpoint the origin and the relationship between all the variants of chess. And then there is a whole project, I think it's called the LUDEM project, that is, I think, based on in the Netherlands, in which they're trying to use deep learning and neural networks to try to follow, well, first of all, reconstruct the rules of ancestral games so that they can do something like that, try to put in a historical context how all of these games have been evolving one from another. So there are efforts, there have been efforts, and there are current efforts on that. Now, one of the big problems is that there's not much known in terms of, there's a lot of gaps, tons of gaps. I mean, if there are gaps in history, imagine in the history of games. So you need to find rules, you need to find artifacts, you need to find boards, you need to find pieces, you need to find people talking about it that they wrote down something about it. So all of that is very difficult as we go back in time. I mean, there are games known from the Greeks and from the Romans and from the Persians and from ancient Chinese, and then Egyptians, etc. Also in the Americas too, and India, of course. But if you want to go back in time still, which is what actually interests me, the mindset of putting together something that is aesthetically pleasing and puts you in a state of flow that is akin to a religious experience and an aesthetic experience, all of that is basically unknown. You have to reconstruct that from other kind of evidences and other kind of
but
disciplines.
It's very
fascinating.
I think. Yes, fascinating, because also these gaps probably in more modern games, not very ancestral games, but also sometimes if you don't with this kind of studies also. You can also think, if you don't understand so much one game, that it's a gap because you don't know exactly the rules, maybe for the position or the place where it developed. You can think a little bit how were the rules that they used to play, or to hypothesize something different. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, check out the LUDEM project. By it's a consortium of researchers. I think is based in Netherlands, and they're doing fascinating work.
Okay.
So I think there is something written here. I don't know if it's a lot. I don't think I can read.
It's a lot. I don't know.
So
Maybe I don't know if what.
Something about GPT-4.
Ah,
I asked the
really
GPT-4. Here's the answer.
interesting.
Oh, I
Ah,
see. A future game.
okay. It's the answer of GPT-4. It was not Thomas. It was GPT-4.
So advanced technology, global challenges, social and cultural diversity, ethical dilemmas, online connectivity, personalization and player agency, alternative realities. Yeah. Interesting. I will definitely copy this and paste into.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Mhm.
So
Yeah, I think it will be too much to go into this right now, right?
yeah. So I think that also we are on time. We in general we finished this meeting. It's only 1 hour, so maybe we can stop now. What do you
Absolutely.
think?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for your talk. It was very interesting, and thank you so much to be a part of this group. I think that because I was discussing a little bit with other people of this group, that maybe if you want to join in other moments, obviously you are
Uh,
invited. So
it will be a pleasure. I thank you very much for having me, and I owe you the network, anatomical network analysis talk, and yes, I'll be happy to participate. So you send me some info so that I'm up
okay,
to
okay.
date with it, and yeah, very nice
Yeah.
talking to you. It's been very, very productive for me.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for to everybody. And yeah, see you in another time, I hope.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye.